Now, will you do that after I speak? I'm just saying, because you know what I learned? Is that if you don't ask, you don't get, right? And I am trying to really quick get here. Well, first of all, I want to do a little shout out for 10X Health Systems. 6 months ago, I had my blood tested for everything, and everything was broken. I will tell y'all right now. And so if you haven't done that, I want you to do it, because they've got me back on track, and that is not what my talk is about today, but they've got me on track, and I'm standing taller, and I'm working out, and I feel amazing, and I'm sleeping again, and ladies, you owe it to yourself. And 30-30-30, was that not worth the price of admission? I'm backstage going 30-30-30, okay, I can go home now. Because all I have to do is that, and I get to be skinny again. Yay! Okay, so I want to get to what I'm going to talk about today. How many of you came here today and you were scared? You're here by yourself. Yeah, I've seen the hands go up. How many of you came today because you need your cup filled? How many of you braved Snowmageddon to come across the country to get here, right? We did in Texas. I'm like, no ice storm's gonna stop me. No way. So I'm gonna take a cue from Elena. I'm gonna pivot just a tad, because she said earlier that the most important thing needs to be said first, because that's what you're going to remember. So here it is. If there ever comes a time when the women of the world come together purely and simply for the benefit of mankind, it will be a force such as the world has ever known. That will be the most important statement that I make in the next 45 minutes. You see, it's happening here right now. The women of the world, Elena spoke about it. We have come together. We are in this room for one thing, and it's typically not for ourselves. We're here to make the world a better place. We're here to make our families stronger. We're here to build legacy, right? Where's my girl Claudiane? She's going to have a baby, and her name is Legacy, right? You're here today to build a legacy. You're here today to go big or go bigger. Exactly. So again, that'll be the most important statement I make today. So I want to take you back. Today's kind of a weird anniversary for me. It's the 1-year anniversary of me being in the hospital. I broke my neck and I broke my arm. We had an accident on our ranch, and I'm still mad at my husband about it, let's be real. But he was driving the Polaris that ran into the tree in the other Texas ice storm. And a year ago today, as I sat in a hospital bed, and they're saying to me, you may never walk in heels again. Your neck is broken. We have to get in there and see where it is broken, because we have to know that you're going to walk again. And so, that was always my thing. It said, I'm going to be high, healed, right? Healed on high. But by God, I've got $100,000 worth of shoes in my closet, and I'm going to wear them again, right? There's no broken neck, broken arm, broken everything that is not going to be healed. But I had to do that in my head, and when I broke my neck, the neurosurgeon comes in, and I said, okay, well, what are the side effects of this thing? Because I can tell you right now, I'm not wearing one of those neck collars for 4 months and all that. Forget about it. Forget about it. Not happening. And he said, well, really the only side effect is that we have to move your vocal cords to do the operation. So you may never speak again. And I'm like, I know my husband ran me into that tree for a reason, didn't he? And I'm like, Doc, that ain't happening. Like, I am a speaker. And how I had to fight back for 6 months, Sharon Lecter knows, Elena knows, many of my good friends know, for 6 months, I couldn't even talk for 10 minutes straight. And how I had to fight through that and fight back and do it scared and get onto public platforms, not knowing if my voice was going to hold up, okay? And so I want you, every one of you in here today, I want you to say this with me before we get started. I am committed to do it scared. In the absence of courage, I'm going to do it scared. okay? Courage is a big word. And I'm going to talk to you all today about a lioness and a lamb. And I want you to decide by the time you leave today what you will be, what you will show your children, what you will show your friends, what you'll show your coworkers, how you are going to rise up in the world that we live in today, this scary, scary world. And you have two choices. You're going to be a lioness or you're going to be a lamb. And you know what happens to lambs? They get slaughtered, okay? So danger is real, fear is a choice. I say that to myself every single day. Psychology today says 96% of what we fear never materializes. And how much time do we spend on worry and on fear versus taking control of the situation, AKA getting that blood test from Gary? I'm not kidding you. Mine was kind of off. And when the doctor called me, I literally said to her, "Am I going to die?" She's like, "No, we're going to fix you." Right? So it doesn't do us any good to put our head in the sand. And what I find with women is that we take care of everybody. We take care of our friends. We take care of our kids. We take care of our homes. We take care of everybody, but we don't take care of ourselves. And this was not a paid endorsement, I promise you. But it's very, very important to me that all of you take care of you because you are your legacy. So when you think about danger is real, how many times do we sit and worry about things that never materialize, right? Instead of taking action. So here are the 4 signs that you're living in fear. Will you raise your hand if you feel like you're living in fear right now? Will you just be authentic? You know, I'm an authentic person. That's the one thing about me. My friends will tell me, please quit being so authentic. Please shut up. Please quit telling people what you really think. I can't help myself, right? I love what Gary said about authenticity. We're living in fear. We live in a scary world nowadays. But here are some of the signs that you're living in fear. Perfectionism. I was cracking up when he was talking about that mirror. I had one in my hotel room. I'm up this close to it this morning, and I'm mad because the light won't come on. I've got the magnifying mirror on, and I'm like, the damn light won't come on. So, I wanted to light up those imperfections as I'm gluing on my eyelashes this morning, right? So that is a sign that you're living in fear. Signs you're living in fear is that you settle. You settle for the status quo. I wrote a book in 2016, I should say. I co-authored a book in 2016. And it was Crushing Mediocrity, 10 Ways to Rise Above the Status Quo. And everybody, you know, being mediocre is not a bad thing necessarily. It just means you're living in the middle. You're in the status quo. You're in the safe spot, right? But greatness never comes from the safe spot. And every single one of you in here today, man or woman, I want to challenge you to rise above the status quo in 2022. Because our country and our world is lacking leaders, and they are lacking people who are that will rise up. You know, and I look at some of these speakers on that wall, and several of them, they are women that rise up. They are not afraid to take on an issue. They're not afraid to take on a disease or a pandemic. They're not afraid what other people think because it's the truth. It is their truth. And by rising up, they're going to save a life. They're going to save a country, right? So who in this room will rise up in 2022? Are you going to take a stand? We're going to take a stand for what we believe. Another sign you're living in fear, procrastination. You know what I do? I decide in the morning, I'm going to do everything I don't want to do, and I do it first. Because otherwise, I'm just going to procrastinate. So I do everything I don't want to do first, and that's go to my Pilates coach. I'm just like, oh, this is painful. But that's okay because I'm walking again, and I'm tall again, and you know, I'm doing that. So I know what I need to do. It's not always fun to do. And then, of course, the sign you're living in fear is that you're numbing yourself. And all of you know what that means. And it may be that you're staying home. It may be that you're living in fear. You're living behind a mask. You're not playing big. You're drinking too much. You're doing drugs. You're whatever that may look like. But get to the root of it. And the root is that you're living in fear. And that's what we're going to talk about pushing through today. So this is my favorite talk, and it's the lioness, not a lamb. And all about doing it scared is about becoming a lioness. So let me just give you a little history of the lion and the lioness. So the lioness is the queen of the jungle. She hunts, she takes care of the pride, she takes care of the lion, and she's up, the entire pride is up, and they are hunting about 16 hours a day. When they're not doing that, they're taking care of each other's cubs. They're nursing each other's cubs. They're making sure that everybody has what they need, and then they're also sleeping with the lion. So there's that. Now, because we need more cubs in the world, right? The lion sleeps 20 hours a day. He's up for 4 hours for two things: to eat and hang out with the lioness, okay? The lioness is with the prides, and a pride encircles about 100 miles. And 9 to 12 lionesses will stay together their entire life. The lion will either die or he'll get killed, and a new lion will come into the pride. But what I love about the lioness and the lion's story is that the women work together. Remember what Matthew Arnold said? Whenever there's a time that the women of the world will come together, it will be something that we've never seen. And are we ready as women to come together and work together and be collaborative? Because what I find with women is that a lot of times we're not as collaborative as we should be because of the other C word. Competition. I wasn't going to say anything like that. Competition. Because of competition. And do you know that I have the absolute honor every single day to work with Elena Cardone and her team? And I will tell you from a firsthand front row seat into that organization, it's a little about competition. She is going to build the fastest real estate team in the world. So that piece of competition's there. But it's about collaboration. It's absolutely about how can we help our team be more successful. You see, there is no I in team. And so as women, when you're thinking about, and it's hard for women sometimes to come together and to work. I was in a very male-dominated industry for many, many years. In fact, I was on Clubhouse today talking about it. And nobody worked together. If anything, I was the lamb to the slaughter every single day. Absolutely every single day. And so I want to encourage you to come together. Now, I know some of you came here by yourselves. I know some of you don't know anybody here. I know some of you came with a whole pack of people. I want to encourage you to reach out, reach across, meet the ladies and the men that get it, that showed up, right? And do business with each other, collaborate with each other. Like, it doesn't do anybody any good to come to an event like this if we don't have a big takeaway. Mine's 30, 30, 30. I won't lie to you guys. Can I tell you guys, I'm doing it scared right now. Yeah, thank you. I'm doing it scared. I was literally backstage. I was backstage and I was going through everything in my head and kind of, that thing in my stomach. So it doesn't matter who you are and it doesn't matter what level you have achieved. You're most likely doing it scared. Now, I happen to have the microphone right now and I'm on the stage. But you know what? Every one of you could do the very same thing. You don't have to have the biggest story. You don't have to have anything but the courage to stand up in front of people and tell your story. How many people in here are going to tell their story? How will your story bless someone else? You see, I think just by the fact that I told all of you that my hormones were super screwed up and that my blood work was terrible to the point where I thought, maybe I'm not going to live much longer, maybe that'll prick one of you in here to say, you know what, I need to go get those tests done, right? Every one of you has a lot more work to do. One of my favorite quotes and one of my very favorite books of all times is Outwitting the Devil. Who has read Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill? Edited and annotated by the fabulous Sharon Lechter. Boy, I'll tell you, I read that book in 2015. And what a game changer it was for me. And one of my favorite quotes is, failure is always a blessing when it forces one to acquire knowledge or to build habits that lead to the achievement of one's major purpose in life. You see, without purpose, you have pain. And you can't push through pain without purpose. Because you see, when you know your purpose, you don't quit. When you know why you were put on planet Earth, you don't quit. And I don't want anybody in this room to quit on my watch. And I know Elena Cardone doesn't either. And all of the other speakers. But this book was so powerful to me, and I want to tell you all kind of a funny story. I'm going to kind of tell you a little funny story about Sharon Lechter and I. When we wrote the book in 2015, Crushing Mediocrity, my co-author, Renee Bangelsdorf, said to me, Lisa Copeland, you got one job. I'm like, oh boy, what's the one job? And she's like, you've got to get Sharon Lechter to write the foreword to our book. Now, I did not know Sharon Lechter, okay? And I know this story is going to, it's going to resonate with somebody in this room, because there's somebody in this room that you don't know yet that you need to know. So I go to this women's event. I was speaking at it. She was speaking at it. Renee couldn't go. Renee knew Sharon, or had met Sharon before. And so here's me. I'm like, hey, my name's Lisa, and we wrote a book, and we want you to write the foreword to it. And she's like, have you ever written a book before? And I'm like, no, but we need this New York Times best-selling author to write the foreword for us. And she's like, okay, my dear, send it to my office. So that wasn't enough for me. I went and sat next to her at dinner that night. And I know she was like, it's you again? Oh my God. And I'm like, hey, can I send that book over sooner than later? Because our publisher needs it, and I really need the foreword. And she said, I already told you what to do. Send it to my office. I'm never going to write a foreword for a book I haven't read. I'm like, okay. But what I will tell you from that, and it's such a great story, because I was so scared. I was so intimidated. Not that Sharon's that person, but she was this New York Times best-selling author, has sold 40 million books. And I had to go ask her to write the foreword. But more importantly, from that became one of the best friends that I have on planet Earth, okay? If I would not have done it scared, and if I wouldn't have shown up to that event totally to stalk her, totally to get a yes, right? 1,000,000%. That was my job. I'm also kind of known as the closer in our friend circle. So anyways, I would not be friends with Sharon Lechter today. Her and I bounce back and forth between Austin and Scottsdale, and I go to the ranch and we hang out, and I don't make a move without talking to my friend Sharon Lechter. Sharon, did you think I was a stalker at what level of 1 to 10? 12. All right? So is there somebody in this room that you all need to meet? Right? Be a stalker. 2 things. As soon as they file a restraining order, you need to back off, okay? But until that happens, who do you need to meet? Who will take you to the next level? I hate to say that the book did not hit the New York Times bestsellers list. Nowhere close. I think we got on Amazon for one day, one of those awards. But other than that, but I made a friend for life. All because I was a stalker, and I did it scared, okay? So failure is always a blessing. How many people in this room have failed? I fail every single day. But what I've gotten into my psyche is that I do it scared. So my story, you heard a little bit about being an automotive dealer. I did that one scared too. Who in the world wants to relaunch a brand that left the U.S. the first time as Fix It Again Tony? Fiat. And I mean, people thought I was crazy. But I'm super proud of that story. And why I'm proud of that story, the picture in the automotive news, there's 17,000 car dealerships in the United States of America. And my team, we won the Best Workplace Award because, see, I was all about culture. And I made our culture known. That was me in the pink Fiat that the chairman of the board of Chrysler, Ferrari, Maserati built for me after my team broke the world sales record, and then that's just my horse. I loved my horse. Anyways, but that being said, so that was my story. I made a decision in 2011 that I would step out of my comfort zone, and I would go back into the automotive industry. You see, I had left. And I went back, and they're like, you have one job. See, I'm always about the one job. I only need one job in life, I'm telling you. I had one job, and that was to successfully relaunch Fiat to America. I had no idea the pushback that would happen, the blowback from the industry, and more so from the boys. They didn't want me. They did not want me. They used to call me Fiat Barbie and all kinds of stuff. I'm like, Fiat Barbie, my butt. I kick your butt every single month in sales. And I do it in high heels, kind of like Ginger Rogers. So yeah, I am Fiat Barbie. And I kick your butt, right? And so, as we were going back, I made a conscious decision that I was gonna hire women, minorities, and millennials. Because if you've ever been to a car dealership in the great state of Texas, it's a bunch of white cowboys selling Ford trucks. And I wasn't about to have those white cowboys working for me with my cute little Italian car. So we absolutely made the decision publicly that we were going to be the #1 store in the United States of America, in Austin, Texas, in the land of trucks and SUVs. So that was the first target, right? The first target was, I told my team when I hired them, by the way, we're going to be #1. And they said, but Automotive News says that Los Angeles is a better market I don't give a rat's ass what Automotive News says. You work for me, and we're going to be #1 in the country. End of story, right? But again, LA was our target. We wanted to see what LA did so we could always do one more, right? And I told my team, if you stick with me, we will make history. And nobody will ever be able to take away from you the success of breaking the world sales record. So in 2012, I made a very audacious bet publicly in Automotive News with the head of Fiat brand at the time, Tim Kuniskis, and the bet was, if we break the world sales record, and I say we, because I was the leader who had the privilege of leading the greatest team in the country, but I didn't do anything. I was the leader. And I said, if we break the world sales record, we want to meet Mr. Sergio Marchionne. And Mr. Marchionne was the head of the Italian Auto Union. He was the chairman of the board of Ferrari, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Alfa, globally. He passed away. But he was a big deal, and he was somebody who inspired me, and he was somebody that, you know how it is, like that one person in life you want to meet? Can you see a pattern here with me? I'm like, okay, I want to meet this guy. I mean, I understand he's the most powerful man in the whole world when it comes to automotive, but I want to meet him, and I'm willing to do the work that it takes to meet him. And that work was to break a world sales record. Okay, that's fine. Challenge accepted. So what are you willing to do? Because so many times, people come to me, and I know they probably come to Elena and Sharon and Barbara and Danelle and all of our amazing speakers, and they're like, I want to work with you. Really? Prove it. Prove it. Do something that we get to work together. Because my whole career, I've had to prove what I can do, and that's okay, because as women, we have a hard time sometimes proving it, bragging about it, posting about it, or even taking credit for it. And after my team broke the world sales record, Mr. Marchionne put me on the National Dealer Council, which was the board for dealers, right? There was 18 of us that governed every Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Ferrari, Maserati, Alfa Romeo store in the nation. So 2,800 stores, 18 of us, we were the generals. And I was on that board for 4 years. And I'll tell you this, the first year I didn't speak because I wasn't spoken to. They hated me, 17 guys and me. They hated me. And so I just went into my shell. Have you ever done that? Have you gone into your shell because you think imposter syndrome? I mean, they had me believing their narrative that I didn't belong at that table, blah, blah, blah. Hell yeah, I belonged at that table. I was the only one at that table that broke a world sales record for the brands, right? But guess what? I was buying into their narrative. And so one day I get back to Detroit and I get a text, and see, somebody out there needs this text. Somebody out here needs this message. I get a text from the head of Fiat, and he goes, you haven't spoken in a year. Because every 3 months we were in Detroit. And I said, I know, because I don't think that they want to hear what I have to say. And he goes, I dare you. I'll never forget the text. It says, I dare you. And so I took the mic and I said, I'd like to give some comments about the marketing campaign. And I'm telling you, once I got my voice, I never shut up for 3 more years. But how how crazy is it that I needed permission because I was sitting at the boys' table? And guess what? I earned my spot at that table. And I want to tell every one of you, you have earned a spot at the table. I promise you, you have. But you have to take that spot. You have to own that spot. You have to speak in that spot. How many of you in here have your own businesses? Yeah. So sometimes it is a table of one. Let's be real, right? But how are you going to bring other people to your table? It's scary to go out and ask people to do things. It's scary to ask people to join you. How many of my friends in here are in real estate? I want you to ask somebody to join your team today, especially if you're in my downline. But no, seriously, I want you to start asking people to join your team. What is holding you back? You see, life is not meant to do by itself. So I'm going to talk about the pivot because the pivot was so important to me. So in fact, my PR guy, Bruce Serbin, is in the house somewhere. I'd love to see his hand. He used to do my PR for me when I was at the dealership. Anyways, and he just texted me and told me he was here. I had to make a pivot in 2020, just like the rest of us did, right? I was speaking. I'd sold the dealership in 16. You know, I was out doing what I do best, inspiring people to rise, right, to be lionesses, and everything gets canceled. And so I was like, what am I going to do? I'm thinking the only thing I haven't done is have a real estate license. Like, seriously, y'all. I've had an insurance company. I've had the mortgage company, a car dealership. Oh, I had my securities license for about 5 minutes until I realized I couldn't have insider trading conversations. So I was like, get rid of that thing. But anyways, so I have done, I shouldn't have said that out loud, but I'm just saying, I just was worried about having stock tips at the table, that's all. Anyways, and I never made any money doing it, so I had to get rid of it. But the only thing I hadn't done is that I didn't have a real estate license. And I thought, okay, in Texas, real estate was considered essential. And thank God mortgages were, because my husband, that meant he could go work at the office for 2 years, because that would have been a disaster if we had to work together in the house. So I went and got my real estate license, and I decided I was going to get into residential real estate. Why not? Why not? And then I had the opportunity with this amazing company called EXP to build an organization. Where's my EXPers? That's all I get? Dang. Okay, and so I had this amazing opportunity to build an organization doing what I do best. Remember the Best Workplace Awards? I'm all about training people. I'm all about building people up. Like, this is going to be amazing. So so as I start building out my team, I thought, I'm going to call my friend Grant Cardone. I'm going to tell him that he needs to get involved with this company. Does anybody, I'll even give you a book, if anybody can tell me how many times Grant Cardone told me no. No? Not quite that high. 12. Yeah, right? I didn't give up. I knew that the Cardones needed to be involved with this company. Because why? Because of this. Because they could take realtors and people to heightened levels of success with their eyes closed. You see, I knew that. But that's just another way that I did it scared. I mean, how many times can Grant Cardone tell you, no, Lisa, I hope you're doing good, but no, I'm not interested, I'm too busy, right? How many times can you hear that? And let me just tell you, when you call back, you do it scared. And you do it scared. How many of you need to call somebody back right now that would change the trajectory of your business? Well, if you do, you need to go through Cardone training because they are the best at it, right? But in all seriousness, what are you doing? What are you going to do to go next level in 2022? I tell you my story because I want you to know I've taken tons of hits, and I have failed way more than I have succeeded. I mean, really failed. And I'll tell you, when I did the pivot, which I'm going to show you my next slide because it's when I went from cars, which that was another book I wrote, Car Buying Her Way, into real estate, that was a big pivot. And what I was really afraid of, seriously afraid of, is that I would fail publicly. You know, I had this really high-profile career in the automotive industry, and what if I get into real estate and I can't sell a house? What if nobody wants to buy a house from me? I can't even tell you the gyrations I went through in my head during my pivot because I didn't want to fail. And I'm like, but what else am I going to do? And okay, so let's just say I failed during the pivot from automotive into the real estate business. What's the worst thing that can happen? I just failed again. I just chalk it up. How many in this room have written a book? Okay, so our book is, I think, it was 44,000 words. And that was mine and Renee's biggest accomplishments. And what we'd laugh about is if we had to write a book about our failures, it would be like the Encyclopedia Britannica, right? So just know that. So I made that decision. And when I say I did it scared, I did it so scared it wasn't even funny. And I remember putting it on Facebook. I'm like, hey, everybody, guess what I'm doing now? And people are like, oh my God, please tell me you're not going to try to sell me a car, insurance, financial services. What else could LisaCopeland be selling? Because I'm always selling something. And I said, I'm in real estate. And I'm super excited. And I know I've been out of it for, 15 or 10 years because I went back in the auto industry. I was in the mortgage business, so I was not in the real estate side. But I'm going to be the best realtor in the world, and then I'm going to build the biggest team in the world, and I'm going to go ask people like Grant Cardone and Elena Cardone to join my team. Like, what the hell? Why not? Because guess what? It worked out great for me. But I was so scared. I was scared of failure. I was scared of judgment. I was scared of what people were going to say. I was scared that people go, oh, she probably couldn't make it as a speaker. Oh, she probably couldn't do this. She probably couldn't do that. Her book flopped. Whatever. I don't know. And guess what? They're going to say it anyways. Haters are going to hate. Haters are going to hate. So regardless of what you do and the pivot that you make and the decision that you make today, here, right now, who in this room is ready to make a decision to do something different? If you have a real estate license, I want you to go right out to that table out there, but I'm not kidding, but I am. Okay, so you've made the decision to pivot. How many of you, let's be real, authentic, we're in the room, are afraid of failing? Or just what people would say. Look at the hands in the back. Right. Screw those people. Do it scared. Do it scared. Do it. If you fail, it isn't fatal. Failing typically is not fatal. So I want to encourage you to do that. I'm telling you, my life has been forever changed because I got 12 no's from the man himself. And Jared, if I saw Jared up there earlier, I got a few no's from Jared also. Okay? I've known these guys forever. And I knew in my heart that the Cardone empire needed to be involved in EXP. Do you have something that you know in your heart, and sometimes the person on the other side doesn't know it yet? They just don't know it yet. Whose responsibility is it to present it and sell it to them? It's yours. You're the closer. The greatest thing I heard this morning on Clubhouse, a friend of mine was talking about the fact that should you go to college, should you not go to college, in today's world. And I piped in and I said, forget going to college. Learn how to sell. If you can sell, you don't need to go to college. Please, learn how to sell. But ladies and guys that get it, but I am talking to my ladies right now. The first thing you've got to learn how to sell is yourself. You've got to sell yourself. And for that to happen, you can't compare yourself to me or to Sharon or to Barbara or to Elena, right? Because then you start getting into imposter syndrome. I do it. I absolutely do it. We all do it because women, that's what we do. Because we don't think we're worthy. We don't believe that we're worthy so many times. Or, I'm not going to try to do that because my friend Mary does it better. You know what? Make that your goal, to do it better than Mary. That's okay. It'll make you better and it'll make Mary better because she ain't going to let her friend beat her, right? That's just kind of our running joke on my real estate team, I'm always so happy when I see one of my agents do great, but I'm like, damn, I got to sell 3 houses next month. I can't have them beat me, right? So it is always for the good of the empire to keep yourself accountable. So here are the things, as we start to wrap this thing up, that I want you to write down, take a picture of, whatever, because I know what you need to do to face your fears and to do it scared. Number 1, you got to stop with the excuses, sister. Okay? Excuses are like, you know what? Everyone's got one. Okay? And the biggest excuse that you can tell yourself is that you're not worthy. That'll be the first excuse that you'll give yourself. I'm not young enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not thin enough, but hey, we gave you the answer to that one today, 30, 30, 30. I'm not thin enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not successful enough. I'm not wealthy enough. Oh, I don't care. They're excuses. Stop it. You're going to turn your shoulds into must. I should lose weight this year. I should start exercising. I should start a business. I should get a real estate license. I should do a lot of things. But if you don't do them and you don't prioritize them and you don't put them on your list, forget about it. Learn that pain brings you valuable insight. Some of the greatest lessons I've learned in life have been through failure and through pain. And some of the greatest people that I've ever met in my life have been the ones who have come beside me in pain and in failure. You want to adopt an abundance mindset. See, you're here today. There's nothing you can't do. But you've got to glom onto this community because this is a community of like-minded people, right? We're all 10X or we wouldn't be here. Yes. Okay. So you've got to adopt that abundance mindset. You've got to absolutely jump in head first. You've got to make the commitment every single day to be 10X, to be excellent. You have to be fully present. And boy, I will tell you, that's a hard one for me. In this world of distractions, you know, everybody, it's social media, it's this, it's that, it's whatever. You've got to be present. We have to be present for our kids. We have to be present for our spouse. We've got to be present when we're having a one-on-one conversation. And I'll tell you, this is the one, in all authenticity, that I struggle with the most. Because we are multitaskers. We're multi-posters, we're multi-everything, and we want to give everybody a little bit of our attention all at the same time. And I'm going to tell you, it'll be a game changer when you make the decision to be fully present for your children, to put down the phone, to be fully present for your spouse, right? I mean, my husband used to get so mad at me because he'd be talking to me and I'm scrolling Instagram. And he finally said one day, he's like, will you please put that phone down? And I didn't even realize I was doing it. I'm like, oh, but babe, such and such did this and that. He's like, I don't care. I need like right here. Do you think that that's why he ran me into the tree? Just came up with that, actually. Okay. So you've got to be fully present. And then in the face of fear or in the absence of courage, you've got to commit to do it scared. Thank you.